So,
Yeah, I have a perspective on Poland versus, or Eastern Europe versus India. You have to remember product development. When you talk about it, there are different product development cycles can range from 5 years into 3 months. Whether it's you're designing a new plane or maybe a remote control. So both are product development, but each one of has a different cycle. The companies that are, and also the size of the companies, and the smaller size firms, OEMs, for them in Europe especially, it's a lot easier for them to work with a firm in Eastern Europe because they speak the same language. Poland speak German. Romania, for example, they speak Latin language, which is closer to Italian. So it's a lot easier for them to interact with those engineers. And of course, the capability-wise, they're one of the best from mathematical capabilities, analytical thinking. They produce one of the best engineers. Now absolutely, because as in the earlier session they talked about, engineering is about creating from nothing. So you are creating from nothing. So it does require you to have analytical skills. Now the companies who come to India are the larger firms, and the larger firms come to India because of access to market. A lot of aerospace boom today. Even the cost base exists in Poland and Romania. They're not necessarily going there. Why are they coming here? It's because of the huge market potential here. They want to be in India because of the cost base. They want to access the market. They want to impress the government, so that they can sell their defense equipment, for example. So if you see the Aero Show, there are a lot of commitments being made by all these large firms to establish design centers here, manufacturing. It's all to take advantage of the country's growth, economic growth that's happening here. So I think that the decision whether to Poland or Eastern Europe or India is dictated by the size of the firm as well as the market access. I think that these are predominant factors.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you, as CEOs or business leaders in India, we're always worried about China, whether it's a real threat or just because we read so much about the size of China and how China is in danger of taking over the world in the next 20 years. Should we be equally worried about the skills that are being built in Eastern Europe? Is it more of something that we should be worried about than maybe we are worried about now?
In my view, the skills that are available in Poland because of the European, when I say Eastern Europe, the skills that are available because of the European Union, the talent is very mobile. The people will move from one country to another country where there is economic prospect, the standard of living is high, and the barrier to move is not there for these countries. So the talent will move. And I think that not having that barrier will continue to push the non-availability of the engineers, as well as in the country, the demographics are at the play. A lot of these families don't have as many kids, or the number of the students going into engineering school is reduced. In India, that's not the case. It's an open capacity here. So a lot of engineers are being produced, and I think that barrier will continue to drive them towards India.
Just to add to Ajit, if we really look at the hard numbers, how many engineers work in Romania? 50,000 plus. How many engineers are working in Poland? 200,000 plus. If you look at one Indian company or two or three largest Indian companies, probably they'll be employing more number of engineers themselves alone compared to a country capacity. So it's not pure number game. So what we are talking about here is not number game. Secondly, if you go back to the root of our discussion, and if we are talking about having innovation-driven industry in engineering services in India, is where the challenge lies, because there you're not playing with numbers. What you are talking about is you have one, but how big is that one, not how many ones you have.
Okay. Do we have another question?
Yeah, my name is Alok Palsikar from Satyam in Europe. My question to the panel is, like in IT, we saw a whole set of foreign or multinational companies, service providers moving to India to take part in the whole offshoring process. We now see that happening in the engineering space, where the global engineering service providers flocking to India. Now my question to the panel is, what kind of challenges will these companies see? Because this is not related to just taking a few entry-level people and doing some low-cost work, low-end work around in India. So what challenges will these companies see as they move to India to make use of the talent and cash in the boom?
So there are a couple of aspects to that. One, you mentioned and you tried to differentiate between doing software tasks versus doing engineering. And in the previous panel, there was some talk about how they have extensive training programs to train engineers. I beg to differ. I think engineering is an experience-based skill set. If you don't get your hands dirty and you haven't made some mistakes and you haven't done design with time schedules and with cost factors as constraints, you haven't honed your engineering skill set. So the engineering skill sets need to be evolved, and I think India is now moving towards that, with the manufacturing base probably starting to happen, more electronics and design coming out here. So it's engineering skill sets have to evolve, and that's a challenge that any company trying to relocate here is going to be capacity issues. Right? I want to also touch base on innovation, because this ties into engineering. Engagements, I mean, it's a matter of culture, right? I went to a management seminar, and one of the speakers over there was from Gillette, the razor company. And he said, can you imagine the challenge we have to attract people to our research center to do development and research of razors? And then he showed us the type of talent they're able to attract. Right? So just think of the challenge of a mundane thing of designing a razor blade and being able to attract key talent in that. So it goes back to culture, it goes back to maybe some leadership, ownership on the leadership's part to set the environment. And then this also evolves to maybe having longer term engagements with the customers, where it's not a time and materials thing, but it's a longer term engagement, because engineers at heart like challenges. And I have seen where attrition can be managed or reduced by giving them a challenging environment to allowing them to create.